Hey folks, it's Sam, and I'm here live on YouTube and Facebook and other places today. I'm talking about the 2025 Vedic Astrology ahead. We have some big shifts ahead in 2025. Mars between Gemini and Cancer, Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, solar eclipse in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces. Also the node shift. I'm going to be going over these things quickly today and also showing that you can get a deep dive into that with a web class that I have, a free web class where I go deep into all of these things, including the Jupiter in Gemini shift and what that means for you and all the other zodiac signs as well. So we're going to be going over this again. It might seem early for 2025, but it's only about a month and a half away. So stay tuned and check it out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You want to go to 2025 Vedic, folks, as you know, you want to go to I'm making a mess here. Sorry about that. I meant to have the intro, but anyway, so we'll just jump in here. Look, huge shifts ahead in 2025. Again, as you see here, I do have a web class that you can go to. I'll drop the link here in the comments, but it's just 2025vedicastrology.com. But as you can see, we have a lot going on: eclipses, retrogrades, important transits, how they'll affect you. And in that web class, there are the 10 most important shifts that you need to know. And I'm going to talk about them today here on this class. But again, very important shifts ahead. First of all, we start at the beginning of January and into June of next year. We have Mars going back and forth between the sign of Cancer and Gemini. Mars back and forth between Cancer and Gemini. It's in Cancer now, and it's in Cancer until January 21st. Then Mars goes back into Gemini, where there's sort of intellectual frustration. Right now it's in Cancer, where there's emotional frustration. Goes back into Gemini in January, then goes forward again. He's in January until April. Then he goes back into Cancer until June. So again, this is a huge shift starting off the beginning of the year that's already happening right now. So this Mars going in between Gemini and Cancer and sort of toggling back and forth until June is huge into next year. And again, we're already experiencing a big part of that now. We also have Venus retrograde. Venus retrograde March 2nd. Now, Venus doesn't go retro, she goes retrograde like every year and a half or so, and year and a half or two. And it's going to be in Pisces, where Venus is exalted, but retrograde. Again, one of those things where it's sort of cross indicators, counter indicators. Again, I go into it in great depth in the in this free web class where I go over each of these things for 5-10 minutes each. But just to understand that it's going to be in the sign of Pisces, where we have several important shifts happening: Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, solar eclipse, Saturn in Pisces, all of these things early next year. This huge emphasis around March, April of both an eclipse in Pisces, Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde happening within that same cycle, and also Saturn moving into Pisces. All of these things converging next year in, starting in early March. And so this, the Venus retrograde, when you get a planet that's exalted but retrograde, it raises the standard, but then creates confusion about the standard. So, for example, with the Venus, whenever Venus is exalted, it can lead to that kind of soulmate fantasy Venus projection, right? And when it's retrograde, then it creates a sort of confusion around it, like where those projections start to fail, and we see it. For example, that kind of thing, where this disillusion is sort of disappointment with the world, disappointment is a big Jupiter keyword that's not talked about as much as it should be. But this disillusion, disappointment is going to be huge early next year with all those planets in Pisces, like I said, because we have this desire to want to transcend the mundane qualities of the world, because the world and other people are going to disappoint us, because we're actually trying to connect with that spirit, because we are spirit. So we get the disappointment in Pisces where it's like, oh, not this either, not this person, not this idea, not this job, this career, this community, whatever it is that we're saying, oh, that's going to be the thing that saves me. Nothing's going to save us. Aren't I cheery today? Nothing's going to save you. What's going to save you is authentic spiritual truth. So this is a huge thing for the beginning of next year, as you see. Venus retrograde March 2nd. Mercury retrograde also happens within that. Okay, like with Mercury retrograde, it's the illusion and the disappointment around ideas and the confusion. But again, with Mercury, it's actually debilitated here. So we're sort of confused about the confusion even. It can kind of get compounded. We don't know that we're the one confused. We think everything else is confusing or something. This is what the dignity shows, right? So the Mercury retrograde is going to be happening within that as well. Then there's a solar eclipse in Pisces, Uttara Bhadrapada. Again, so this is that last eclipse in Pisces shows where all these things get magnified, this magnification of disappointment. And again, it doesn't feel like disappointment often. It feels like fantasy, escapism. We want to escape from the disappointment, so to speak. We want to escape from the illusion, and things like that. So these are all, this is how those things often show up for us, is we have this desire to want to escape from the disappointment. And so we escape into, Netflix and, movies and other kinds of things, right? So this is how Pisces escapism tends to look. Saturn goes into Pisces as well. Now, Saturn is that structure, those boundaries. Like, I'm going to make this work. Saturn's been in Aquarius where we're like, yes, we're going to come together as a people and, culture, community. We're all in it together. And then it's like, ugh. Sort of dissolve that illusion that we're all in it together or whatever. Again, your salvation is not some communal thing. Your salvation as a soul is yours. You're alone in that context, right? We can show up and be in service of something bigger, yay, and then no, not that either. So again, this is the transition from Aquarius to Pisces. I talk about it all the time. Saturn is now going to be really, aware of those things. So again, very big Pisces themes early in the year. And I also want to let people know about something else if you want to get more information about how these things can be more impactful, how 2025 can be more personalized for you if you're interested. Folks, as you know, 2025 is right around the corner. I'm making some readings to get you ready and get you on track for 2025. We have some big changes that are happening. Saturn is going to be moving into Pisces, where we're dissolving structure, whether we want to or not. Jupiter's moving into Gemini, expanding ideas, but also expanding disinformation and bad ideas. Nodes move into the Aquarius Leo axis, where we're serving culture or king. Also a lot of other things ahead, numerous retrograde cycles, including Venus retrograde, a lot of energy on Pisces early in the year. I'm doing these quick readings that are based on I say quick, it's a 30-minute assessment of your chart, your dashas, and all of these shifts that are coming. So again, a lot coming up, eclipse cycles, and a lot more. So check it out and register for the reading while you can. Yeah, if that's interesting to you, I do have those available again, and I go over these important shifts. Saturn is moving into Pisces March 3rd, Jupiter moving into Gemini from May 15th to May 2026, and the nodes move into Aquarius, Leo, serving culture or king. And again, that's where we are here with this shift. May 29th, Rahu and Ketu move out of the Pisces Virgo axis and move into the Leo Aquarius axis. So as it says here, serving culture or king, so to speak. Again, try to put a sort of pithy, comment on it. And also the retrograde cycles of Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and Cancer. So again, it's this. This quick assessment is if you want me to look at your chart and see how these major shifts are going to affect you in 2025. So you can check that out as well if you're interested. So again, as it says here, we have this shift of Rahu and Ketu moving into that axis. Then Jupiter in Gemini, May 15th. And again, it says here for your sign, because this is on this page here where you can register for the web class. On that web class, I'm going to also talk about how these things affect your sign. Again, I go through each of the 12 signs. So for example, I have a Gemini rising. So Jupiter going into Gemini is coming into my first house. So it's going to infuse my whole life with Jupiter teachings and whatnot. If you're a Pisces person, it's going into your fourth house. So again, but this is a huge shift next year. So again, we see Saturn changes signs, Rahu and Ketu change signs, and Jupiter change signs, all at the beginning of the year. I say the first part of the year. So again, within the next 6 months, your whole life is going to shift, right? All these planets are going to move into different signs. Saturn has been in Aquarius for the last 2.5 years. He's going to go in Pisces. Nodes have been in Pisces, Virgo. They're going to go into Aquarius and Leo. And Jupiter has been in Taurus. He's going to go into Gemini, right? So again, that's moving the ideas of Jupiter, which are about higher teachings, higher principles, a sense of inspiration and purpose. He's going to move out of Taurus, where it's very practical, grounded, and into Gemini, where it's about ideas, trying to expand ideas, but also can expand the false ideas, the bad ideas, the information overload, information overwhelm, our capacity to be misled. In this day and age, we don't have an information problem. We have a discrimination problem. This isn't just the age of information, it's the age of disinformation. And so Jupiter in Gemini can magnify one over the other, or however. So again, it really depends. Jupiter in your chart or whatever. So again, if you want the personal reading, I'm doing the personalized reading. If you want the general reading for your sign, just in general, which again, all of it's helpful, then again, you can get the free web class where I do that. But then we have Mars going into Leo, and I talk about Mars entering Leo because I always look at Mars going into Leo as a pretty big shift, because even during regular times, Mars goes into Aries, where he's very powerful. Then he goes into Taurus, where he's not so disciplined. Then he goes into Gemini, where he's not disciplined. Then he goes into Cancer, where he's debilitated. So by the time Mars gets into Leo, even in a regular year or regular time, Mars in Leo has been very subdued for about 6 months, right? Because he's been through Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. So then he goes into Leo and he's ready to just bust out. But this year especially, or I should say next year especially, because Mars Again, he's going to go into Leo June 7th. But that's about a year after he went into Taurus. And then 9 months after he went into Gemini and Cancer. So when Mars goes into Leo in June of next year, again, it's kind of like being shot out of a cannon or something. It's a huge difference. So I really consider this a major time next year where, okay, now we're going to really sort of kick ass and take names, if I can be sort of glib about that. Then we have the second Mercury retrograde cycle in Cancer from July 18th to August 11th. And so this Mercury retrograde cycle, again, now Mercury's in Cancer, which is the same element that he's debilitated in. He's debilitated in Pisces, which is watery, because this is where the story becomes very emotional and we kind of lose ourselves in all of our, the water signs or water element is where we can be sort of like a baby. We could be kind of like a baby, and like a sort of crying baby, not a screaming baby. Screaming baby is kind of like fire, at least the debilitated part. Like if a planet is debilitated in a fire sign or weak in the fire sign, then it's like a baby having a tantrum. If it's weak in a water sign, it's like a baby crying, and we kind of get overwhelmed by the emotion. So again, the Mercury retrograde is kind of like this with the story in our head and our discrimination. And we just want to be loved. I just want love. I just want to be loved. Right? That's sort of Cancer. Why doesn't anyone love me? Right? So that kind of thing distorts the story a little bit, right? So then we have the solar eclipse in Virgo, Uttar Falguni, September 21st. And again, this is near the autumnal equinox, if not on that day. And so this is a cycle of I should say we have the solar eclipse in Virgo. Sorry, but we have to understand that the nodes are still in that Aquarius Leo axis, right? So this is how the nodes work. Even though Rahu and Ketu are in the Leo Aquarius axis, the Sun and Moon are getting eclipsed in Virgo. So this is the last eclipse of the Pisces Virgo transit. It will happen here on September 21st of next year. And again, that's going to be a very pivotal shift. Then we have the next Mercury retrograde, which happens in Scorpio. Again, this is also that same element, that watery element. But in Scorpio, it's the kind of baby, it's kind of a combination of the fiery Mars and the emotional. So this is why Scorpio is complicated, because it's like the baby having a tantrum. It's kind of literally like the tantrum in the detriment part, because it's Mars, which is like, I'm angry, but it's watery, which is, I'm sad, angry, sad, angry, sad. Again, when it's difficult. When it's powerful, then we, instead of acting out that way, we introspect more and we develop more emotional courage and emotional strength. So again, but there's frustration there. There could be quite a bit of emotional frustration with the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio from November 10th until November 30th. That Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is going to be bringing that kind of, again, it's with Mercury when it's retrograde, there's sort of confusion about the story. Because Mercury is that story, what we're telling ourselves about what's going on. And when it's retrograde, we're kind of reflecting on that story. So, well, what does this mean? Oh, it means now in Scorpio, it's like, and I'm angry that nobody understands me. I'm so misunderstood and nobody understands me. And again, there could be frustration about that. And so again, instead of being in your own psychodrama story, the best thing with when the Mercury goes retrograde is to listen more, introspect, have discrimination. Again, that's why Mercury is powerful in the in the earth signs, in the air signs, where it's more practical, more flexible, less emotional and frustrated and all like that. So then Jupiter retrograde November 12th through the spring of 2026. Again, so now Jupiter retrograde is, again, when Jupiter went into Gemini here in May, then he goes retrograde in November. So wherever Jupiter is, wherever the sign of Gemini is and whatnot, he's going to go retrograde there. And again, when Jupiter's retrograde, we have this reflection on our inspiration, our beliefs, our purpose. So we reflect on that. And again, he'll be in Gemini. So it's about these inspiring ideas and whatnot. And again, trying to not be overwhelmed or like, oh, this idea is the thing that gets me all hopeful. And so when he goes retrograde, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't right either. Hopefully, we're sort of correcting ourselves. So retrograde is powerful because it's introspective and it's reflective. We reflect on things in retrograde cycles. So again, these are more than 10 plus of the most important shifts of next year. And again, you can get the free web class. Again, this is free. You just go and select the date and time. There's also a replay available when you do it. And so, and also, again, if you do want to get this for your own sign, then you can also click the link that I dropped here. You can look under the video for that. But either way, 2025 is a lot going on with eclipses, retrogrades, important transits. And, again, at the very least, I hope you get the free web class. That's why I put it together. And again, hour-long videos on YouTube. Often, people don't follow through. They don't watch the whole thing and whatnot. So again, it takes 10 seconds and then you get to watch the full thing and you get to have it. And so that's why I do it this way. So anyway, I hope you have a great day and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.